Today we will continue the laws of illumination. This lecture or this video class is useful for 5th sem diploma students, and we will discuss about the chapter of illumination in this class. So in our last class, as we have discussed these laws of illuminations, and we have already concluded that this law, let me just make you just a recap that what we have read in our last class. The laws of illumination, we have concluded that the E1 is to E2 double is to I by R square is to 1 by 2R cube. In other words, illumination at a surface is inversely proportional to the square root of the distance from the source. So this was the conclusion which we have drawn in our last class. Today we will discuss about Lambert's cosine law. According to this law, illumination of a surface varies directly as the cosine of the angle between the normal of the surface and direct of the incident light. Mathematically, students, it can be written as E is proportional to cos theta. If the normal surface is there, or if the surface is normal, capital E will be equal to phi divided by area, as because there is no angle subtended by the source of light and the body which has to be illuminated. Second case, if it is at an inclination, then what will be the capital E? E is equal to phi divided by area into a factor which is known as cos phi, which is exactly this cosine or your Lambert's cosine law. So students, there is a figure given to you in your screen. So you can see when the fluxes or your the lights sources were normal, then there was zero angle to the flux axis, and when it subtends an angle, what happens? There is an angle theta between the flux axis and the normal to the surface. So by this we can put the factor cos theta and we can multiply to phi divided by area, right? So this, let me just zoom it out so that it will be more clear to you. So this is the figure where the fluxes direction has been shown. If the fluxes are normal to the body whose surface has to be illuminated, then the factor cos theta, where theta is equal to 0 degree. If the theta is equal to 0 degree, what will be the value of cos 0 degree? It is equal to 1, right? Right, cos theta is equal to 1, or cos 0 degree is equal to 1. So now what happens if this subtends an angle? So there is the diagram, you can see if the surface is inclined, then there will be an angle theta, and by putting this value in cos theta, you have to multiply it by the factor phi divided by area. So this one is your Lambert cosine law, right? Now we will move further. Illumination at a point. So now we will understand what about illumination at a point. So we have taken an example. Suppose there is a point P on a plane surface, right? With the help of this diagram, I think it is very much clear that this point P is visible to all of you, right? So this is the point P, this is the point P, this is the point Q, the height is H, the angle subtended is theta, which is also equal to this angle. This is the normal plane, this line is the normal plane. Now we'll just proceed. So let P be the point on a plane surface Now mind you students, this surface is plane and is situated at a distance small d meters from a source of light S. So the source of light, which one is the source of light? S is the source of light, this one. And if S is the source of light, the distance, it is d distance meter away from the source of light. So now the source is at a height h meter from the surface. So what is the distance? D, small d. Which one is the distance? This one is the distance from P to Q. It is small d, right? Now the source is at a height of h meters from the surface. Surface has a I candle power, that is candle power is equal to capital I. By the first law of illumination, what is the first law of illumination? We have already discussed in our previous class, that is illumination at a point P is equal to, or it is proportional to I divided by d square. It has been written as 1 by d square, by mistakenly somebody has written over here, so you can correct it. It is I divided by d square, right? Now according to the second law, what is the second law? It is Ep is proportional to cos phi, Lambert cosines law, right? So Ep is proportional to I divided by d square, again Ep is proportional to cos phi. So combining both this equation, Ep will be proportional to I divided by d square cos phi. Again here it has been written by mistakenly 1, but it is I. Let me write it again. Ep is equal to I divided by d square cos theta. Right. So this is the formula. Ep is proportional to I divided by d square cos theta. Now if we will remove this constant, proportionality will be eliminated. So Ep can be written as I divided by d square cos theta. Now where I is the illuminous or luminous intensity of the surface in candle power, and cos phi is equal to Qs divided by Ps. What is Qs and what is Ps? Look, Qs is your, this much is your Qs and this is your Ps. So cos theta is equal to, because this is the angle na students, just have a look. So this is theta. What will be cos theta? That will be equal to Qs by Ps, right? Now which is again equal to small h divided by d. What is small h? It is the height of the source from this body which has to be illuminated, or the from the ground. And what is d? It is the distance. Now we can separate this small distance, small d is equal to h divided by cos theta by cross multiplying. Simply we get this small d is equal to h divided by cos theta. Now putting the value of d in equation 3, which one is your equation 3? This one is your equation 3, that is Ep is equal to I divided by d square cos theta. Now we will replace, or we will put this in equation 3. Ep is equal to I divided by h cos theta whole square into cos theta, which is equal to I divided by h square cos cube theta, right? So illumination at a point is equal to I divided by d square cos theta, which is also equal to I divided by I divided by h square cos cube theta. If D is given, then the relation, or you can find the illumination is equal to I divided by d square cos theta, and if height is given, then what you have to do, I divided by h square cos cube theta. So mind you students, there are two different cases. So if d is given, you will use this formula. What is d? It is the distance of the body which has to be illuminated and the source. It is the ground distance. And what about if the height is given? If the height of the source from the ground is given, you will use this formula. This one. What is it? I divided by h square cos cube theta. So by using these two formula, we can find out the illumination at a point P. Similarly, illumination at point Q can also be calculated. At point Q, cos theta is equal to 1 and D is equal to H. So illumination at a point Q is equal to I divided by D square is equal to I divided by H square. So what is that point Q? Let us check it out. Q is this point. Q is this point. So if at this point we have to find out the illumination, what will happen? We will have the formula I divided by d square, which is also equal to I divided by h square. Right. Now we will have a numerical. Let us calculate. So the question, it has been asked, calculate the total flux from the lamp having mean spherical candle power of 35. You have to find the total flux. What you have to find out? You have to find the total flux. Right. So that should be inside your mind while solving such problems. And the only thing which has been given to you is the lamp is having mean spherical candle power of 35. Now the solution. Mean spherical candle power of lamp is equal to 35, and the formula for MSCP is equal to total flux divided by 4 pi. So the total flux will be is equal to MSCP into 4 pi. You just have to multiply 4 pi to the mean spherical candle power of lamp. So it will be around 440 lumens. Right, this was a very simple problem, and this type of similar question is there. 6.2. A 250 volt lamp has a total flux of 3000 lumens and takes a current of 0.8 ampere. Calculate lumens per watt and MSCP per watt. Here the wattage of lamp is equal to 250 into 0.8. Flux emitted is equal to 3000 lumens. Lumens per watt is equal to phi divided by omega. So what is the value of phi here? 3000, and the value of omega, that is equal to 200, which comes out to be 15. So MSCP is equal to theta divided by 4 pi is equal to 3000 divided by 4 pi, which will give you 238.7 or approximately equal to 239. MSCP per watt is equal to 240 divided by 200, that is equal to 1.2. Now you have similar problems, you can go through them, and if you have any doubts you may consult. Now we will move to the next theories. Now to students, today the source of light we will discuss. So there are various sources of light, and the sources of light can be divided into two groups: natural sources and artificial sources. Because those sources are due to the nature, we will call them as a natural sources. Those which has been made by us can be told or can be said to be artificial sources. So artificial sources can be further divided into two types or two groups: non-electrical sources or electrical sources of light. So we will discuss about them. Natural sources, as you all know, it can be sun, it can be star, and the major source of light is our sun. Why? It is needless to say, because sun is the only star which is closer to our earth, so we are getting light from sun. So non electrical sources of lights are candles. Those things do not require any electrical source, can be called as your non electrical sources. Candle, does it require any electrical energy? No. So we will call it as a non electrical source of light. Similarly, kerosene lamp, you know, can you name a example of kerosene lamp? Your lanterns, the earlier days they used to use lanterns, right? Petromax lamps, etc. What are Petromax lamps? There are lamps which are ignited by your you cannot say that exactly petroleum, they are the byproducts of this crude oil or petroleum products also, which are used to glow a lamp, which is usually made up of a cotton type of material, and it gives illumination quite to a satisfactory level. So there are Petromax lamps also in the stalls, those which are in the stalls also you will find such kind of your light sources. The electrical sources of light are incandescent lamps. Mercury vapor lamp is the other example. Fluorescent tubes is also there. Sodium vapor lamps is also there. So this is very important as per your exams are concerned. This from this particular types of lamps you will get one out of these lamps. The detailed structure you have to draw the diagram also. You have to describe its functions also, and the elements by which it has been made. So we will start today with electrical sources of light. So incandescent lamps, these are also known as filament lamps because they employ a filament inside them, so we call them as a incandescent lamps. These lamps works on the principle of incandescence, hence known as incandescent lamp, according to which when current is passed through the wire, both heat and light are produced. So if we will allow current to pass through a material, light will be produced and heat will be generated. So when wire is red hot, it emits more heat as compared to light. So if it is red hot, then it will emit more heat as compared to light. At white hot position, the amount of light radiation being much more than the heat energy. Now, if the color of your what do you say? If the color or if the body has white hot position, what will happen? It will emit heat energy as well as light energy, but the amount of heat energy will be less as compared to the light energy emitted. Right? If it is a red hot body, what will happen? The amount of heat energy will be more as compared to the light energy. If it is white, then more amount of light will be emitted as compared to heat. Now, the material used for filament lamp must have the following properties. See, any material cannot be used as a filament lamp because already in your previous semesters, particularly in your material, electrical engineering material, you might have learned about to select a material to use for a particular kind of application. Suppose I will not select a material for a particular kind of application, it will not work satisfactorily. What will happen? The thing or the type of the nature the particular job is made, it will not work as per our necessity efficiently. Right? Suppose how can I make you understand? Suppose let us take an example. Yes, suppose I have two sources of lights. One is candle another is a bunch of paper is there, and I have sufficient number of matchsticks. I will, if I will use the candle, then the duration of time which I can get illuminated will be more or less as compared to if I will glow, or if I will burn the papers and I will get illumination. Which one will be more? Obviously, if I use the candle, the duration of time to which I can be or I can make the room illuminated will be more if I will use this paper, or the time taken to illuminate the room will be lesser. Although it is also a different thing, the amount of paper consumed will be more also if I will try to uh, make the room illuminated by the use of only paper. So I have to burn all those paper to so as to make light, na? So similarly, I have to select a proper material so that cost wise, its availability, all those factors which has been required to me will fulfill the requirement. So here also the lamp must have the following properties, otherwise we will not select that lamp. Suppose a lamp is costing you around 2 to 3 lakhs, and it will be working for only 2 days, will you select it? Never. But if there is some emergency case, those lamp which cost you also, you have to go for those lamps. So it depends upon situation and also cost, and there are several factors upon which we decide a particular type of thing which we should use. Now, what are the properties of the material for filament lamp? It should have high melting point. Now students, if the material is not having high melting point, what will happen? The material will be melted away, and I have to go and purchase another lamp. The same lamp I am talking about, I have to go and purchase the same lamp because I am keen to know its property, no? So it should possess high melting point, and it should also have high resistivity. Right, the resistivity of the material should be high. It should have low temperature coefficient. I am skipping the point number 2 and I am leaving you to the listeners or the viewers so that they can understand why its resistivity will be low. You have to answer me. I will ask you in the Saturday, the interaction class, why the high resistivity is a desirable property, because I consider that you all know why it should have high resistivity, though you are electrical students, and you should know what are the effects of having high resistivity of a material. So now skipping that point 2, now coming to point number 3, it should have low temperature coefficient. Now the temperature coefficient, right, the temperature coefficient should be low. With the rise in the temperature, the amount of heat generated should be low, or it is vice versa. What is it is, if the temperature is high, then low temperature, it should have low temperature coefficient, means the temperature variation should be low and it should withstand high amount of temperature with the rise in its temperature. It should also have low vapor pressure. Look, the container inside which these lamps are placed creates a lots of pressure, so this should possess a low vapor pressure, otherwise it may cause the failure of the lamp or the filament. It should have strong mechanical to withstand vibration during normal use. So why it should have strong ability to have that is mechanical, or the vibration should be able to withstand mechanical vibration, because this is a lamp which will be installed in a horizontal position, and there will be a number of occasions during which there will be some disturbance in the lamp. Suppose I will just shift its position, the bulb, from one place to the another, so there will be a continuous vibration in it. Suppose there will be some birds or some mechanical you can say imbalance is created by any animal or bird, what will happen? The vibration of the filament will take place, and if it is not having mechanical strength, then what will happen? It will just get breakdown, which will cause to failure of the incandescent lamp, right? It should have a good ductile so that it will be drawn into very thin wires. So this the property of the material should also possess ductility, so as to draw into thin wires. So by drawing it into thin wires, we can make, because already it is a strong material, so by drawing into a uh, thin coil, or you can say thin wires, we can make it use for your I mean lesser amount of the material can be used or employed to make it use for a filament of the tube. The material used for filament is carbon, osmium, tantalum and tungsten. So what are the materials used? You should remember also, students: carbon, osmium, tantalum and tungsten. Right. Nowadays tungsten is most commonly used metal filament because it fulfills above properties. Now the commonly used metal filament is your tungsten because it fulfills all these properties. Moreover, lamps with tungsten filament has higher efficiency than carbon, osmium and tantalum filament lamps. So that is the reason why, students, we go for your tungsten element. You might have remember, if anybody asks you what is the name of the material which is used to manufacture the filament of the bulb, you say tungsten only. So why the tungsten is only used, you now know why, because it fulfills all the properties desirable for a lamp. And the other material which can be substituted were carbon, osmium, tantalum, because this material do not perform the same function. Because if you use carbon also, it will perform the same function, but it will not perform the function as satisfactorily as tungsten would be. So we go for tungsten only. Now there is a figure, I will show you the figure. We will go through the theory first. So it shows a construction of gas filled incandescent lamp, which is very necessary. I will show you also, which is in common use these days. It consists of tungsten filament T placed in a glass cover D. Okay, I will just show you the figure first, then I will go through the theory. So student, this is the typical diagram of the incandescent bulb. So from the figure you can check the parts. So there is a glass cover, gas is there. What gas is there we will discover now, because we have the theories afterwards. So we have a filament tungsten, support wire, lead in wires which is made up of molybdenum, gas support bottom, glass stem, heat reflector, fuse, exhaust tube, brass or aluminum cap or pins of bayonet cap. So now we will discuss about its theory. So it consists of a filament T placed in a glass cover G. So it consists of a filament T. Which one is T? So you will find out that the filament is this one, is T, right? Now which is this T is now inside a glass cover, because the filament used must be capable of being operated for long periods at a high temperature without appreciable depreciation. Therefore tungsten has been found satisfactory because it has high melting point and its order is 3500 degrees centigrade. You have to remember this temperature. In the theory of this incandescent lamp, you have to also mention the temperature which it can withstand. So now it has high specific resistance also, low rate of evaporation, the ductility and high mechanical strength. So it has good ductility. It shows the properties of ductility. It also shows high mechanical strength also. Now, the glass bulb is filled with a chemical inert gas as nitrogen or argon. So you have to remember, students, the gas which is used inside this is here nitrogen, is your nitrogen or argon, right? And about atmospheric pressure to reduce rate of evaporation and to avoid deterioration due to oxidation. So due to avoid so to avoid oxidation, we use the gas which is a inert gas like nitrogen or argon. Now it causes increase in the life of the filament. So without the use of this gas, the life of the filament can be reduced. If you use this gas, the life of the filament will be increased. So obviously we will use this gas. Sometimes vacuum is also selected, so we will discover. So let us now continue. It causes increase in the life of filament by using those gases which are argon and your nitrogen. The filament is supported on wire hooks fixed on a glass stem S and is normally in a helical or coiled form. So this reduces the surface area of the filament exposed to gas and thereby reduces the heat loss due to convection. And also it reduces space requirement for a larger length of filament. The efficiency of coil lamp is high as compared to single coil lamps. It requires less number of supports for the filament. The lamps below 40 watts are not filled with gases. So I think you might know this incandescent lamp are they are available in market in varieties of wattage. So starting from 40 watts, maybe 200, and after that 500 watt is, I think, no, 400 watt is available. So the varieties of wattage of this incandescent lamps are available. So if it is below 40, or the lamps which are 40 watts are not fitted with gases, so they do not require gases because they do not produce that amount of heat which would be produced while using higher wattage lamps. So this is due to fact that heat will be wasted in these small sized bulbs due to conventional flow of gas, which will transfer heat from the filament to the walls of the bulb, which are quite close to the filament. This will reduce lumens emitted by the filament. In large bulb, the size of the filament is reduced by using coiled coils up to approximately 100 watt. And simple coiled filament above 100 watt, heat reflectors is used for bulbs of high power rating. The cap used in that case is Edison screw cap. So the type of the cap which is used is known as your Edison screw cap. Now we'll discuss about its ratings. The rating of the bulb is specified in volt and wattage, that is 60 watt 230 volt or 100 watt 250 volt. Small bulbs used for indication of certain laboratory requirement have ratings in milliamperes. If the bulb is given voltage rating are not operated at the rated voltage, there is direct influence on the lumens output. Suppose the rated voltage is 150 volt and we have operated in a 250 or 240, that which is, or 230 volt, which is the standard voltage. So the consequence or the thing which will happen if you will apply some different voltage, if we will not apply the rated voltage, will be its lumens output will be different, its life will be also affected, and as well as your efficiency will be changed. The above effect can be more appreciated by looking into the figure 6.28. I will show you the figure, just let have the theory first. It is worth noting that a small increase in the order of 5% in the operating voltage reduces the life by 50%. Suppose you will go and you will increase the voltage by 5%. So suppose, let us assume the voltage is to be 200 volt. What is the 5% of this voltage? It is around 10 volts, right? Because this 10 volt, that is, if it is increased to 210 or 200, yes, because the voltage here is considered to be 200, the 5% rise is 210. So if this voltage is injected to such kind of bulb or your lamps, what will happen? Its life will be reduced to 50%. Suppose those kind of lamp were made to have a lifespan of 100 days, its lifespan will be reduced to 50 days. So similarly, 1% change in the applied voltage changes the wattage by 1.5% and efficiency by 2% and the output by 3.5%. Similarly, we cannot ignore the fact that operation at lesser voltage than the rated value results in increased life period. So now it is reversed also. If we will reduce the voltage also, we will find that its uh, the the outputs or the you can find that it is having the life period increased, the output of on the other hand is drastically reduced, so that in order to have the same flux output we have to use more number of bulbs. This is a matter of fact speaks of a false economy. Actually, operation at reduced voltage and use after 70% of normal life is an uneconomical, as the light output is drastically reduced. So if you will go for a what do you mean by lower voltages, what will happen? The life of the bulb will be increased. That is true, but one thing you have to sacrifice: the amount of illumination, because the light which it will produce or which it will give you, it will be very dim light, right? So the obviously the life of those bulb will be higher, but the illumination will be drastically reduced. So this was the diagram. You just have to look at this diagram, no need to have to draw this diagram in your exam. This is just a relationship between the life and the percentage increase in the voltage. So you may just look it, and if you have any doubts in the figure you can ask. Now, effects of glass cover. The type of glass the type and color used for the glass cover produce a vital effect on the quality of the light emitted from an incandescent bulb. That is, milky glass cover gives a diffuse light output which is almost natural in effect, like daylight. The bluish glass cover gives moonlight effect, which is a pleasant only on hot summer nights. The green, yellow, or red glass covers are useful for signaling purpose. The mercury reflector cover is useful for showroom lights. Other miscellaneous colored glass covers are used for decorative lightings. So students, this was for your incandescent light or your lamps. So you just go through this one, because this is very frequently asked in your exams, so you should be able to answer them. And also you should draw a neat diagram of this incandescent lamp and label them, and the properties which I have already shown, how the output will be and how its life will be affected, all those things you should go through them and make those note, and we will discuss about its property in our coming class. Thank you.